Money Matters Radio Network.
For 40 years, Cancer Support Community has been a relentless ally for anyone impacted by cancer, with free services provided online and in person, with their newest location in Massachusetts. Connect with Cancer Support Community Massachusetts for free emotional support, educational resources, patient navigation, financial counseling, and more. 617-797-3391. CancerSupportMass.org. CancerSupportMass.org.
Hi, this is Chuck and Mike from the Armstrong Advisory Group, and we have a guide available this month titled How to Retire in 2023. Mike, one of the big questions about retirement is figuring out how much income you need during that time period. Where do people start?
Well, the temptation is to start with the rules of thumb that are out there, right? I think everybody's heard of the 80% rule. Hey, take what I'm spending today, and I'm going to only need 80% of that or 80% of the income in retirement. And that very well could be the case. But if you want to be confident about the answer, you really have to start with the budget. You can't just use these rules of thumb.
And I think in general, it's better to assume, hey, if I was spending X before retirement, that's probably the good starting point, because there may actually be more opportunities for me to spend money in retirement with all this newfound free time.
Yeah, so I mean, income versus expenses is important to differentiate here. And sure, if you're 40 years old and trying to figure out what it's going to look like 25 years from now, using a rule of thumb is fine. But if you are a year away from retirement, you have to take into consideration things like, hey, will I still have a mortgage at this stage?
Right.
I'm pulling in income. How much of my income is going towards retirement savings today? Clearly, I don't need to replicate that once I'm retired. But just saying, oh, well, I'm spending X and it should be, 3/4 of that when I retire, in my experience, not what people experience.
Our guide this month is titled How to Retire in 2023, and there are two different ways that you can request it. The first is by calling 800-393-4001. The second way to request it is by going to armstrongadvisory.com. The guide again is titled How to Retire in 2023, and you can call 800-393-4001 or go to armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
Environmental nonprofit Ocean River Institute is working with communities to tackle climate change with nature-based solutions that feature slowing water down and building more soil with grasses and plants. Research indicates that people acting in their own neighborhoods can build an inch of soil in a year and slow sea level rise down by as much as 25%. Please visit oceanriver.org for more information on opportunities to make a difference and go the distance for savvy stewardship of a greener and bluer planet Earth.
Our community has relied on AM radio to inform, entertain, and empower. From the gospel music you grew up with to the Black voices and perspectives you depend on for your news. And when dangerous situations arise, AM radio plays a unique role in keeping our listeners safe. We can't afford to have our voice silenced. Text AM to 52886 and tell Congress we need AM radio in cars.
Message and data rates may apply. You may receive up to 4 messages a month, and you may text STOP to stop.
This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
The United States Virgin Islands, St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John were recently voted a top Caribbean destination by Travel and Leisure magazine and several other top media organizations, as well as the best Caribbean islands to visit in 2023 by the Caribbean Journal. Spring has arrived in New England, but it's still a perfect time to head to America's Caribbean paradise. When you arrive, you'll enjoy some of the most pristine beaches in the world, incredible scuba diving and snorkeling, and world-class culinary offerings. Book your trip today and fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands, where the sun is strong, the clouds are few, and the weather is perfect every day. Travel from New England could not be easier. With no passport required, no money to exchange, and no travel restrictions to enter. Go to visitusvi.com and learn more about America's Caribbean paradise and book a trip today. That's visitusvi.com. There are plenty of mistakes that you can make while creating your estate plan. Learn about these critical errors so that you can make the right decisions to always protect your assets. Call Cushing & Dolan right now at 866-848-5699 and get their new guide called Detour Ahead, Estate Planning Blunders to Avoid. That's 866-848-5699 or request it online from their website, legalexchangeshow.com. That's legalexchangeshow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. The Financial Exchange is produced by Money Matters Radio and is hosted by employees of the Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor that provides investment advisory services. All opinions expressed are solely those of the hosts, do not reflect the opinions of Armstrong Advisory or anyone else, and do not guarantee profit. Investments can lose money. This program does not offer any specific financial or investment advice. Please consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong and Money Matters Radio do not compensate each other for referrals and are not affiliated.
This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Mike Armstrong. Your exclusive look at business and financial news affecting your day, your city, your world. Stay informed and up to date about economic and market trends, plus breaking business news every day. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Mike Armstrong.
It is Chuck, Marc Fandetti, and Tucker with you today. And we continue to potentially make some progress towards a debt ceiling deal, resolution, whatever you want to call it. So that's always fun. We'll talk a little bit about that. We've got a little bit of Fed talk to get to as well. And then we had Walmart, the one of the biggest retailers in the world, reporting earnings this very morning. And so we're going to talk about that too. But we kick things off talking about the debt ceiling. And there's a piece from the Bloomberg today. The headline is, a $1 trillion T-bill deluge is a painful risk of a debt limit deal. So, I'm very glad that the fine folks at Bloomberg are listening to the Financial Exchange, because this is something that we actually have talked about over the last couple of weeks now, which is when you look at the mechanics of how the U.S. Treasury funds its operations and then gets those funds out into the wild, the basic premise is they operate something called the Treasury General Account. The TGA is what you will hear it referred to as. And the TGA is the operating account for the U.S. government, more or less. It is where tax receipts get put into. It is where, when the U.S. Treasury issues bonds, it's where the proceeds from those bond sales get put into. It's where they send the money from out to the Department of Defense or the Department of Education or the Department of Energy, and then those departments make their payments out to Raytheon and Halliburton and all the different companies they do business with. It's a gross simplification, but that's what it is. And the issue that we've been not running into, but that running up against the debt ceiling creates is that, hey, like any operating account in a business, you don't want to have it at zero, because that creates a situation where your checks might bounce. So normally, heading into, this year, the U.S. Treasury kept about $500 billion in the Treasury General Account. Just, again, a little walking around money, nothing too much, but just, hey, we need $500 billion in case things get weird. Well, as you see the Treasury Department employing, quote, extraordinary measures in order to stave off defaulting on U.S. debt, one of those extraordinary measures is, hey, we start to tap that Treasury General Account, and we're going to try to run it bone dry before we say we're out of options. So the TGA started the year at about $500 billion. Today, it's at about $100 billion. So it's been dwindling, which is expected but also not good. The piece that we've talked about over the last week or two is, hey, assuming that you get a debt ceiling deal, one of the things the Treasury is going to want to do is they're going to want to refill that Treasury General Account, because they don't want to keep it at zero. So in addition to all of the other borrowing they'd otherwise have been doing this year, they would need to replenish that. And so when it's all said and done, you might need somewhere in the ballpark of $700 billion to $1 trillion in Treasury issuance over a relatively short period of time. And the question people have is, where does that money come from in terms of, is it bank reserves? Is it people selling equities? Does liquidity just contract as a result? And it's a potential concern. It doesn't mean don't do a debt ceiling deal, because that's a big problem in the long run, whereas this is a short-term liquidity drain because money has to flow into treasuries and out of other instruments. But this is kind of the plumbing stuff that may affect risk asset markets over the next few months, and the extent is uncertain. Your thoughts, Mark?
Well, it's the equivalent of a tightening in monetary policy, I think, if they do it injudiciously or non-judiciously or imprudently or whatever the right adverb or adjective is. Why do they have to replenish it all at once? So let me back up and explain myself.
Yeah.
When the Fed, some people know this. I have to remind myself of it from time to time. So just as a refresher, because sometimes we gloss over this stuff. When the Fed raises interest rates, they don't actually raise an interest rate. They either soak up bank reserves and make loanable funds scarcer, or they push reserves into the system, and you do that by buying and selling treasuries. So if you got to sell a lot of treasuries, think about what happens when the treasury sells a bond to a bank or a dealer, more specifically, that ends up pushing it off to an institutional asset manager or an individual. The bank buys that with reserves, and those reserves, Chuck, as you pointed out many times, are reserves they cannot therefore lend.
Yes.
Because it is a zero-sum game, so to speak, and they have to hold some of those
it's a closed system.
reserves. It's a closed system, right. That's an interesting way to put it. So this is the equivalent to me anyway. It sounds like, I don't know, this is not really my area, but I'll speculate a little bit and say this sounds like monetary policy tightening. So why can't they do it in measured, staggered fashion to avoid an unintended, but maybe not unhelpful given the state of inflation, which remains high, tightening in monetary policy?
And I think they probably can to a certain extent, because the folks who work at the Treasury, they're not dummies. There are entire groups there, and talk to anyone who works in really any fixed income space, but specifically talk to anyone who works in debt issuance. And just as an example, when the Treasury Department, I forget when it was, do you remember when they decided to start releasing the 20-year bonds? Was that a decade ago? It was somewhere in the last 15 years or so.
There have been a few, or either that, I'm thinking of the 30-year. But yeah, they start and stop these things depending on the level of interest rates and the deficit from time to time.
So here it is. Okay, so the Treasury, let's see. I'm just going back through. Okay, here we go. I got a timeline of Treasury bonds. This is so exciting. Yeah, so in May of 2020 is when the U.S. Treasury reintroduced the 20-year Treasury. And it's not something where they just wake up one day and they're like, hey, we think that we could issue 20-year bonds. Let's go do it. They talk to other central banks. They talk to big financial institutions to get a sense of what the demand might be for said product, how often they need to issue it. Is it a monthly thing, a weekly, a quarterly, and how much they think can be soaked up by the market. It's why when you look at Treasury auctions, there are weekly ones for, the 3-month bills and things like that. But the 10 years are typically only offered once a month. Okay? So when the Treasury goes and tries to replenish the Treasury General account, they're not just going to say, well, we got to do this all on day one and get it back up to the minimum level that we want to have in the TGA. No, they're going to talk to their counterparties. They're going to talk to the big banks, the other central banks, and say, hey, we've got $100 billion in the TGA right now. We'd like to get that built up to somewhere in the ballpark of $400-500 billion. What's the path to us being able to do that? What do you think you're going to be able to buy on what timeline? And how do we manage that? Either way, it still is going to be a net suck of funds from that closed system into treasuries. But how long does it take? It does not have to be the first day or first week or anything. It's actually fascinating just watching how the Treasury General account moves, because there are some things that you see, like, just as an example, the week prior to tax filing, so prior to April 18th this year, Treasury General account got down to $86 billion left in it. It then, because of all the money that flows in at tax time, got replenished back up to $296 billion by 2 weeks later. And so, and now it's being depleted again. So these are the things that you see even on a regular basis. It doesn't just stay at one level. There still are fluctuations. Yeah. In fact, one of the most interesting things was that back during the pandemic in 2020, Treasury General account at one point actually got up to around $1.7 trillion because Congress allocated all this money. The federal government borrowed it, but it wasn't spent yet. So it was just sitting there waiting to be drawn down. And then really in 2020 and 2021, it got drawn down over the course of those couple of years there. So this is something you'll probably hear some more about. in theory, it's probably a net drain on liquidity, but the pace of that drain is what matters, and how other assets may, be impacted is what people will be watching there. But just because the Treasury has to replenish the TGA does not mean that you abandon a debt ceiling deal. In fact, it's the reason to do the debt ceiling deal so the Treasury can pay its bills.
Yeah, I don't see the two issues as...
No.
They're only connected in the mechanical sense.
Yeah. This is just... It's plumbing is what we're talking about here.
It sounds like plumbing.
It does. Let's take a quick break here. And when we come back, I want to get to talking about Walmart's earnings. They reported before the bell, and so we'll talk about that when we return.
Watch the show every day on Twitch TV, Facebook, and our website, financialexchangeshow.com. We're breaking down the biggest business stories of the day only on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
If you're thinking of retirement in 2023, you'll need to create a plan to make it happen. Hi, this is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group. A big piece of that plan is taking a closer look at your current income sources and expenses. You'll need to know if you have enough room in your budget to live comfortably and remain as financially secure as possible. What's really key is maintaining a reasonable withdrawal rate to help you avoid outliving that money. These are among the topics we discuss in our new free guide, How to Retire in 2023. Call right now and get your copy today at 800-393-4001. Don't wait too long to get your ducks in a row if this is the year for you to retire. Call 800-393-4001 and get your guide right now, or you can request it from our website, armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
My name is Dottie. This is my VA story. My father served in World War II. He was my hero. As he got older, he needed more help. VA New England Healthcare was there for him and our family every step of the way. VA New England Healthcare offers unlimited healthcare options. The best part? It never cost our family a single penny. As a veteran, my father deserved the best, and so does a veteran in your life. My name is Dottie, and I choose VA.
For more information, call 1-844-VA-CARES or visit vacares.us.
Environmental nonprofit Ocean River Institute is working with communities to tackle climate change with nature-based solutions that feature slowing water down and building more soil with grasses and plants. Research indicates that people acting in their own neighborhoods can build an inch of soil in a year and slow sea level rise down by as much as 25%. Please visit oceanriver.org for more information on opportunities to make a difference and go the distance for savvy stewardship of a greener and bluer planet Earth.
This is Tucker Silva of the Financial Exchange Show, and I'm joined today by estate planning attorney Todd Lutzke with your Financial Exchange Quick Tip of the Day. And today we're talking about the top estate planning mistakes to avoid. Todd, what is the downside of adding your beneficiaries to your accounts or adding their names to your real estate deeds as a joint owner? Won't this avoid probate?
Yeah, it sure would. And again, sometimes simple is not always better. And that's what I want to focus on here, folks, is it seems easy to throw an account name, like say I've got a child living nearby, I add their name to my account because it's convenient, but I've got 3 other kids or 2 other kids. Well, when I die, that asset will go directly to that joint owner. Yes, it will avoid probate, but at the end of the day, I could be disinheriting my other children by accident. I certainly don't want to do that. I also expose that asset, at least 50% of that asset, to my child's creditors while I'm living. I don't think I want to do that. And especially, folks, when it comes to real estate, don't add a child's name to your real estate deed, because that not only exposes it to the child's creditors and future divorces, but at the end of the day, you've also given away half the house, trapping half the capital gain in that property. Again, in essence, giving your child a tax bill when you give away highly appreciated property. So do an entire estate plan. Don't just make quick knee-jerk reactions.
Todd Lutzke and the estate planning experts at Cushing & Dolan have written a brand new guide called Detour Ahead, Estate Planning Potholes to Avoid. You can request this brand new guide by calling 866-848-5699, or you can request it from LegalExchangeShow.com. Once again, the phone number, 866-848-5699, or you can simply request it online at their website, LegalExchangeShow.com.
The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. Business and financial news affecting the markets and your wallet. We've got it all straight from Wall Street, right here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
This segment of the Financial Exchange is brought to you in part by the U.S. Virgin Islands Department of Tourism. St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John were named the best Caribbean islands to visit for 2023 by the Caribbean Journal. So act now and fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands as you enjoy some of the most pristine beaches in the world, along with world-class culinary cuisine. Visit usvi.com right now and book your next vacation today. That's visitusvi.com.
Walmart reported earnings before the bell, and they said that their comparable same-store sales grew 7.4% year over year for the quarter that ended April 28th. It's a nice little bump there for the company. Again, even accounting for inflation. Remember, this is nominal, so not adjusted for inflation, which was running about 5%, but still showing organic growth even accounting for that. But the piece here is that the revenue growth seems to really be happening on the grocery side. They've said, there were a couple of quotes from the CEO about how consumers were trading down for smaller packaging sizes and moving away from apparel and other home goods and things like that. And just it seems to me that Walmart is somewhat maxed out in terms of its share of American spending in this environment right now. And why else would you start trying to get into things like financial services and healthcare if you thought there was still retail sales growth for you to pick up? Most people don't realize it right now. Walmart makes over 50% of its sales from groceries. I mean, it's a big chunk there. What are your thoughts on where they potentially go in the future, Mark?
Not a retail strategist, so hard to say, but I guess in the interest of keeping the radio show moving along, their top line sales growth, appreciation, whatever you want to call it, was more than double the pace of grocery store sales nationally, according to yesterday's report on retail sales, advanced retail sales that we got from the feds. So they are either selling higher margin stuff, I guess, or selling more of it. As to how they should position themselves going forward, I mean, hard to say. I have no insight. I don't shop there, only because there's not one nearby. Otherwise, I most certainly would. But to your point, inflation came in at 5 year over year. Their sales was a few percentage points above that. So they're one of the few. If you look at numbers being reported by others like Target and some of the
Home Depot,
big box home improvements folks, they're one of the few to seem to be able to continue to grow top line.
I thought this spoke more to Target more than anything in terms of their, step behind Walmart in terms of groceries. Target is never the place to go to in terms of just getting your weekly groceries, whereas Walmart, that's becoming that place for people, especially in an inflationary period like we are now.
It does seem that this is very much kind of that price-conscious shift that households can be making, which is, hey, let me take a look at Walmart and see what the grocery prices are there. And I'll tell you, the quality, and look, those of you who listen to the show on a regular basis, I'm kind of a food snob aside from my Taco Bell obsession.
I think the three of us are, really.
Walmart, the quality of groceries there is much better than I expected.
Yeah, I haven't shopped there in a while.
The breadth of selection, if you want something that's kind of out of the norm, is what you would expect. You can't get anything, crazy. Mike always tells the story about he asked some guy at a Walmart where he could get a shallot, and the guy looked at him like he had 8 heads.
Yeah, what's a shallot?
But
so they've come a long way since that point.
But I can tell you go in there, and the quality of the produce is pretty good. They got a nice little baked goods section in there. It's not gourmet or anything like that, but you're not going to walk out of there saying, oh, that lettuce is just soft and droopy, and I wouldn't serve it to, my worst enemy.
Wait, what's a shallot?
You really don't? Are you being funny?
No.
You don't know what a shallot is?
Mark, you don't know what a shallot is?
No. Can you give me the food group, major food group?
I thought you were an Italian like me. Come on, what's going on here? You don't know what a shallot is?
This is interesting.
No, don't know.
I did not expect this from you, Mark.
Italian food's very parochial, regional. Depends on, not just what part, north or southern Italy, but like what what region you're from as well. So
This
maybe
is fascinating.
Give that all.
No, what
quick,
is it? Can you
give it a quick Google?
I could have Googled
I
it,
guarantee
but I wanted you to describe it.
You'll see a picture of it, and you'll be like,
I'm sure.
"Oh, that's a shallot."
Vegetable?
It
It's
is a vegetable.
Yes.
It's a root vegetable.
What family is it a part of? Do you know?
Well, I don't know if it's technically a root vegetable.
Yeah.
What kind of dish would you put it in? What does it go with?
It's
Risotto.
It grows underground.
Risotto.
Also, you can use it basically for gives you a little bit more. Well, I don't want to get it.
How do you spell it?
Shallot.
There's my first problem.
How'd you spell it?
Yeah, like chalet.
Oh,
I was like, oh well, that
Okay.
looks that looks lovely. Oh wait,
Are you looking at a picture of it?
nope. There's a Japanese cartoon that appears to share the name. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
Why don't you just put me out of my misery and
No,
tell
the
me
first
what it
thing
is
that
and what
come-
it goes with?
Mark, the first thing that I type in when
Spell it again.
Shallot.
Shallot.
What'd you spell it as the second time?
Of course. Let's move on.
No.
Oh,
You've seen this, right?
yeah, I have.
Okay, that's a
It's
shallot.
like a little oniony kind of thing.
Yeah.
Think of it as it's
Highly recommended.
a smaller, sweeter onion.
Really elevates a dish.
Yeah.
It looks like it's a type
Gives
of
it a little
onion.
bit more depth.
Okay, I would have just called it an onion probably.
So there's that.
So it sounds like Walmart has shallots now.
Walmart does,
We're
Mark
trying to
doesn't.
get down
Sorry.
Sorry.
Interesting data point. Just a piece here. If you had to guess, Mark, at its
You sure?
peak.
You want me to guess?
Yes, because this is Walmart related, not shallot
Okay,
related.
okay.
This is not a shallot related question.
What's the shallot index?
Mark, let me ask you this one first before we move away from shallots, because Paul famously said that a head of garlic cost, what was it, $6 or $7?
$7.
$7. If you had to guess how much a shallot costs, what do you think?
Per pound?
Per shallot.
Chuck, this is not. I'm really outside
I
my
know
comfort zone
but
here.
that's the thing.
I don't know.
We like
a
to,
dollar sounds outrageous to me.
There you go.
Bingo.
A dollar.
Hit it.
But you're in
Nail
the
on the head.
This is how we grow as a person, Mark. This is.
I'm not interested in that anymore.
The financial exchange
I'm
is
looking to
not
shrink
just. You're looking to shrink. You're going through shrinkflation.
My circle of experiences.
Okay.
I want to become narrower.
Mark is on team shrinkflation for experiences.
Well, at least you weren't $6 off from a clove of garlic, like Paul said.
Yeah.
So that's progress, Mark.
I was impressed. You had never heard the term before, and you nailed the price.
Well,
Very
you
good.
Strongly suggested that it was expensive.
But not $7.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you had to guess, Walmart, at its peak, what percentage of U.S. retail sales did it pick up?
About 20, 25.
About 14.
Okay.
Okay, that's right in that ballpark. Today it's around 10. And
We're
it's
talking everything, not just grocery, because we
10% of all retail
retail
sales is what Walmart picks up right now relative to the overall picture. At its peak, which was really 2008 through 2013, it was around 13.5 to 14%. And the growth was just staggering. In the early 90s, it was only 3% of retail sales and just basically steadily did a nice little step up each year pretty much. Let's take a quick break here, and when we come back, we're going to have Wall Street Watch, and then we're talking about China's military and artificial intelligence.
Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter @TFE Show. Breaking business news is always first, right here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network. Creating the right estate plan to help secure your future takes effort. There are plenty of mistakes that you can make, any one of which could have a dramatic and damaging effect on your financial strategy. Cushing & Dolan are experts in estate planning. Their brand new guide is called Detour Ahead, Estate Planning Blunders to Avoid. In it, you'll learn about these critical errors so that you can make the right decisions to always protect your assets. As an example, if you've created a trust more than 10 years ago and haven't updated it since, you're setting yourself up for problems. Cushing & Dolan's new guide will help you address issues like this, so call right now, 866-848-5699, and ask for your free guide today. That's 866-848-5699, or request it online from their website, LegalExchangeShow.com. That's LegalExchangeShow.com.
The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing and Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Financial literacy is power. The more you know, the better you are at managing your money. In observance of National Financial Literacy Month, consider a credit union as your educational resource. Did you know we offer classes and guidance on money management? From establishing credit to buying a new home or saving for retirement, your financial well-being is at the heart of every credit union.
Learn more about credit unions at bettervaluesbetterbanking.com.
More than 80 million Americans depend on AM radio for their news, weather, sports, and a community connection. It's the backbone of the emergency alert system. It's critical that we keep AM radio in cars because when cell and internet services are down, this free emergency service could be your only lifeline. Text AM to 52886 and tell Congress we need AM radio in cars.
Message and data rates may apply. You may receive up to 4 messages a month, and you may text STOP to stop.
This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
The United States Virgin Islands, St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John were recently voted a top Caribbean destination by Travel and Leisure magazine and several other top media organizations, as well as the best Caribbean islands to visit in 2023 by the Caribbean Journal. Spring has arrived in New England, but it's still a perfect time to head to America's Caribbean paradise. When you arrive, you'll enjoy some of the most pristine beaches in the world, incredible scuba diving and snorkeling, and world-class culinary offerings. Book your trip today and fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands, where the sun is strong, the clouds are few, and the weather is perfect every day. Travel from New England could not be easier, with no passport required, no money to exchange, and no travel restrictions to enter. Go to visitusvi.com and learn more about America's Caribbean paradise and book a trip today. That's visitusvi.com.
This is Tucker Silva of the Financial Exchange Show, and I'm joined today by estate planning attorney Todd Lutzke with your Financial Exchange Quick Tip of the Day. And today we're talking about the top estate planning mistakes to avoid. Todd, what is the downside of adding your beneficiaries to your accounts or adding their names to your real estate deeds as a joint owner? Won't this avoid probate?
Yeah, it sure would. And again, sometimes simple is not always better. And that's what I want to focus on here, folks, is it seems easy to throw an account name, like say I've got a child living nearby, I add their name to my account because it's convenient, but I've got 3 other kids or 2 other kids. Well, when I die, that asset will go directly to that joint owner. Yes, it will avoid probate, but at the end of the day, I could be disinheriting my other children by accident. I certainly don't want to do that. I also expose that asset, at least 50% of that asset, to my child's creditors while I'm living. I don't think I want to do that. And especially, folks, when it comes to real estate, don't add a child's name to your real estate deed, because that not only exposes it to the child's creditors and future divorces, but at the end of the day, you've also given away half the house, trapping half the capital gain in that property. Again, in essence, giving your child a tax bill when you give away highly appreciated property. So do an entire estate plan. Don't just make quick knee-jerk reactions.
Todd Lutzke and the estate planning experts at Cushing & Dolan have written a brand new guide called Detour Ahead, Estate Planning Potholes to Avoid. You can request this brand new guide by calling 866-848-5699, or you can request it from LegalExchangeShow.com. Once again, the phone number, 866-848-5699, or you can simply request it online at their website, LegalExchangeShow.com.
The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing and Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. Time now for Wall Street Watch, a complete look at what's moving markets so far today, right here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Well, markets are extending their gains following yesterday's rally, driven by increased optimism around debt ceiling negotiations in Washington. Wall Street is also absorbing more first quarter retail results, with Walmart reporting better than expected earnings and full year guidance this morning. At the moment, the Dow is up by 43 points, S&P 500 is up by 0.5% or 20 points, And the NASDAQ is up nearly 1% higher, or 110 points. Russell 2000 is mostly flat. 10-year Treasury yield up by 5 basis points at 3.63%. And crude oil is off by over three quarters of a percent, trading at $72.28 a barrel. Meanwhile, Take-Two Interactive shares are jumping 11.5% after the video game maker missed on adjusted earnings estimates, but generated fiscal fourth quarter revenue that beat forecasts. Net bookings for the 3 months ending in April were up 65% from a year ago to $1.39 billion, above analyst forecasts. The creator of titles including NBA 2K and Grand Theft Auto noted their big ramp up in new game launches over the next 2 years, forecasting $8 billion in 2025 revenues. Elsewhere, Bath & Body Works reported better than expected earnings and revenue for the first quarter. The body care and fragrance retailer also upped its full-year guidance. That stock is up by 9%. Cisco Systems shares are off by 0.25% after the communications firm posted a 23% decline in orders for the fiscal third quarter. Alibaba shares are off by 5% after the Chinese e-commerce giant missed on quarterly revenue forecasts, but did announce plans to spin off its cloud division as a separate publicly traded company. And tomorrow morning, Deere & Company and Foot Locker will report ahead of the opening bell. I'm Tucker Silva, and that's Wall Street Watch.
Piece in Bloomberg today, talking about China and their military's potential use of artificial intelligence. What does this piece get at, Mark?
That's what I'm struggling with here. I'm not sure what the implications are for investment. We get access to, so let me just frame this in terms, I think, of what I might think an individual investor is wondering, which is, how do I ensure that my portfolio is positioned to benefit from the seeming boundless potential of AI? Do I overweight tech companies, which are in turn making big investments and gobbling up little private companies? Do I need to have access to special investment pools that invest in private companies, so-called venture capital and other forms of PE that focus on small tech? And the short answer is nobody knows if the benefits are going to accrue to private versus public investors. And if the answer is the latter, is it going to be tech companies? Probably. Are we already seeing some of that play out? Microsoft and Google, for example, weaving AI into, I'm getting a little off the military topic here, but I promise I'll bring it back around to the point. Microsoft and Google weaving AI into their productivity suites.
Yeah.
So real, tangible, nearly immediate benefits, quantifiable stuff a stock analyst would be comfortable with. This stuff gets really, to me, ethereal and theoretical. Of course,
because we have no idea what any military is doing with regards to AI.
And there's no way to trust but verify. And once we got into our routine with the Soviets, we had ways, starting with flyovers and then satellites, to verify. And we eventually codified those in treaties. How do you, even if China says that we're not intermingling civil AI R&D with military, like they do with everything else, because the military is intertwined with the private economy there to a good extent. Not that it isn't here too. I mean, we have a military-industrial
It's not the
complex.
same way, though.
I don't think so. No, there's not an all-consuming, top-down sense of direction imposed here. I mean, markets impose some of that on us, but no, certainly not coming from the state in a top-down fashion. So the idea that China would adhere to, I mean, look, I'm biased. I don't trust them. We're aggressive, but they are aggressive to dark and disturbing ends to me. I mean, our view of the world might be flawed. We might think everybody wants to be like us, and that's not the case. And we may have been misguided in intervening in the Middle East for so long, trying to turn Iraq into Michigan. Wasn't going to happen.
Correct.
So, mea culpa. And early on, like everybody, I was jingoistic about that, and it was stupid. I never thought we could turn Iraq into Vermont, but
Michigan was a possibility.
Michigan, to me, seemed plausible. Have you seen their roads?
Have you seen the water?
Yeah. But their roads always puzzle me. As soon as you get on 75,
Michigan's roads.
right out of the airport, you get on 75, pothole. Luckily, it's a rental; you don't care, and it's a Ford, which means it only has it was Ford car, not their trucks, which are great. Ford car meant 18-month life expectancy anyway. But
that's why they get rid of them.
So Michigan, I thought was possible, but
it's where they test them.
The point is, China is demonstrating itself to be aggressive and untrustworthy. And we've got a long way to go to get to the point where if we did agree on some sort of accord to limit the integration of AI into military tech, because it could end up wiping out everybody on the battlefield and then every civilian on the opposite side, because AI is single-minded and relentless, I suppose, if it takes its programming to its logical conclusion. Would you trust the Chinese? Would you trust any military to implement that with required restraint?
Well, what I would say is that if there were any country that were most likely to develop Skynet from Terminator, it would be China. Because you just don't trust that they would build the appropriate guardrails on the system to prevent it from killing its own users. It's I have to save humanity by killing humanity. Like, again, you can kind of get there when you're talking about the Chinese approach to basically human rights.
Any authoritarian system which doesn't have our checks and balances, opposition, trial and error. We're flawed, but there's feedback in our system. Somebody does a poor job, they're thrown out. There's
Correct.
Talk radio criticizing. There's Fox News. There's CNN. We are a pluralistic, sometimes a wildly pluralistic, but it's effective in checking stupidity. The Chinese, for all their intelligence, don't have those checks and balances that to them make us weak and flawed. Oh, America, they're indecisive. They said this during the 50s and 60s, too.
Sure.
Look at the Soviet Union growing at 8% a year. There was no Great Depression there. Fulton Sheen went on TV and said, why don't we have a plan? The Soviets have a plan. No, Cardinal, that was stupid. We don't have a plan because we allow capitalism to work its organic magic. And that's what worries me about, I guess, the Chinese experimenting with AI. It will be single-minded. There will be no checks.
Yeah, and again, none of us know what the cutting edge
Bishop
is
Fulton
for.
Sheen, excuse me. No, he wasn't a cardinal.
None of us know what the cutting edge is for military-based AI at this point. We look at it and we say, oh, go to ChatGPT and write me a recipe using these ingredients.
Yeah, that's cute.
That's not what the military is trying to do. The military would be, okay, build me a combined arms strategy using these different divisions and then tell me how to execute it in this, landscape and then go out and do it.
Yeah, if you take the military objective of victory in total war to its logical conclusion, that means wipe everything. That means doing what Sherman, you know better than I, as a serious student of history, that's what Sherman did.
Right.
Total war, burn everything down. I just want to see chimneys.
Right.
Presumably AI would pursue that.
Yeah, you get that. You get Dresden. You get Stalingrad. You get like all the worst things that we've experienced in war. Well, if the computer doesn't care, then it just does those with no regard to what comes after. It's not.
But would you trust China or any authoritarian power if they said, you know what, you're right, we'll limit the integration of AI into military technology without any transparency?
No, you can't.
So you asked me at the beginning that it sparked this 4-minute diatribe. What does all this point to? And I don't know how you get to a resolution on this that we could ever be satisfied with.
Yeah. Let's take a quick break here. When we come back, we're going to be talking about Micron and their new chip plant. But first, it's time for a salute to our soldiers.
Salute to our veterans is proudly presented by VA New England Healthcare. Today we honor U.S. Marine Corps veteran Paul Corbett. Paul served on active duty as both air operations support and infantry with deployments to Iraq, Afghanistan, and Eastern Africa. Thank you for your service, Paul. If you or a loved one serve this country, get the health benefits you earned and deserve. Call 844-VA-CARES. That's 844-VA-CARES.
Missed one of our shows? Catch up anytime by asking your Alexa smart speaker to play The Financial Exchange. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network. Proper estate planning is critical to you being able to enjoy your retirement years and maybe the difference between retiring comfortably and living under incredible financial pressure. Creating an estate plan can be a difficult process if you aren't working with an expert who will make sure that your plan is secure. Cushing & Dolan can help. Call them today at 866-848-5699. Estate planning is their business, and they have a new guide out this month called Detour Ahead, Estate Planning Blunders to Avoid. Don't put your assets at risk and open yourself up to severe tax consequences. Even if you already have a plan, this guide may help you correct an issue that could come back to bite you in the years to come. Call right now, 866-848-5699, and get your free guide today. That's 866-848-5699, or request it online from their website, LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Hi, this is Chuck Zodda from the Armstrong Advisory Group. If you're hoping to retire this year, you need to have a solid plan in place. A core piece of that plan is understanding how much money you'll need in retirement, especially if you'd like to live a bit more extravagantly as you do currently. Our new guide, How to Retire in 2023, will walk you through the ideas that may help you achieve all of your retirement goals. Call us right now at 800-393-4001 and request your free copy. Understanding your financial needs is just one part of your plan, and this guide can help you develop strategies to protect your assets and enjoy your later years. That number again is 800-393-4001, or request the guide online from our website, armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
For 40 years, Cancer Support Community has been a relentless ally for anyone impacted by cancer, with free services provided online and in person, with their newest location in Massachusetts. Connect with Cancer Support Community Massachusetts for free emotional support, educational resources, patient navigation, financial counseling, and more. 617-797-3391. CancerSupportMass.org. CancerSupportMass.org.
It happens all over Massachusetts.
Can you tie my shoes?
In every home and every community.
Be careful on your bike.
Learning can happen anytime, anywhere.
We'll see you at practice this weekend.
And no matter how learning takes place in your family's life, DESE is there as your partner. The Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. Never stop learning. Find out more at mass.gov/back-to-school.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department for Elementary and Secondary Education.
My name is Dottie. This is my VA story. My father served in World War II. He was my hero. As he got older, he needed more help. VA New England Healthcare was there for him and our family every step of the way. VA New England Healthcare offers unlimited healthcare options. The best part? It never cost our family a single penny. As a veteran, my father deserved the best, and so does a veteran in your life. My name is Dottie, and I choose VA.
For more information, call 1-844-VA-CARES or visit vacares.us.
Tuning into the baseball game, monitoring the incoming storm, catching your favorite talk show. These are just a few of the reasons more than 80 million Americans depend on AM radio each month. And did you know AM radio is the backbone of the emergency alert system? It's reliable, free, and public safety depends on it. Text AM to 52886 and tell Congress we need AM radio in cars.
Message and data rates may apply. You may receive up to 4 messages a month, and you may text STOP to stop.
This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
Find daily interviews and full shows of the Financial Exchange on our YouTube page. Get caught up on anything and everything you might have missed. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Micron said yesterday that they would invest around $3.6 billion in memory chip facilities in Japan, aided by support from the Japanese government. What's really interesting here to me, Mark, is that you see this continued push from chip makers. Really, and I think it's kind of there are three driving forces here. It's the U.S., it's Japan, and then it's the Netherlands, just because the Dutch, you say, well, why are they included in that group? It's because it's where ASML is based, the big lithography machine maker that powers this chip production. And all three of those major players are saying, hey, we do not want more chip making ending up in China, especially when you're talking about the most advanced technologies.
I guess it's hard to argue with that, given what we talked about in the last
I would not argue with it.
segment. But I guess I at the same time, it makes me a little government picking winners or industries more broadly doesn't work out well typically. In fact, there are very few examples outside of wartime when, the requirements are straightforward and the force that can be applied is pretty blunt, and there's urgency of government successfully engineering good private sector outcomes. So I guess we have to, and I'm getting at subsidies here. Why are we throwing subsidies like the Japanese are in this case, or we have done to the tune of 40, 50, or $60 billion or more in the case of semiconductor manufacturers building facilities here? These companies are flush with cash. They pay big dividends. I guess there's no other way to get them to do it. We can't tell them to do it. We have no other way to incent them to do it.
Yeah, I don't think we're looking for good economic outcomes here. And I don't think that's the only thing that matters here. I think it is the threat of potential military action from China. And I think that it is, hey, beyond just, okay, how do we get, the best efficiency of production and the cheapest production and, who has the best scale and this. I think this is very much, we are willing to pay more for this because it's something that we need to have domestic supplies of and specifically keep out of the hands of the Chinese Communist Party. And I think we're willing to pay for that.
Why aren't profit-seeking companies motivated to do that anyway, though? I mean,
From what perspective?
If there's a conflict in China, they're not going to be able to make stuff.
Correct.
Or move stuff around. They can see that risk as surely as we or any politician could. Why aren't they doing it on their own accord? Why do they need the big carrots?
Because I don't think that... If you think about anyone who is in a position where they're running a publicly traded company or even a privately held company, either way, however you want to phrase it, is there any period in the last 70 years where production has been disrupted because of a conflict between global powers?
Since World War II?
The answer is no. I mean, it's not, you get all the proxy stuff in the Middle East and everything and things along those lines, but you weren't making anything in the Middle East.
Other than the obvious example of oil, you mean?
Right, and even there, there's a reason why you don't have much European and American production coming out of that part of the world. A lot of it's nationalized down there. There's a whole different risk down there.
I was thinking of Middle Eastern wars interrupting the supply of oil, leading to two oil crises in the 70s. So there is that example.
But even those pushed up the price. Like, it wasn't something where if you're Exxon, at the time, just Exxon or Mobil back in the 70s, you didn't say, gee, this is bad for business. You said, okay, that's good for business. Our domestically produced oil is going to make us more profit. You didn't have any disruption to your production.
Right.
The people that are running large companies right now, they've never had to deal with war contingency planning. I mean, do you think that if you're talking about, again, whether it's, basically any large company, do you think their boards come to them on a quarterly basis and say, hey, what's your contingency plan if China invades Taiwan? Aside from maybe Apple or, other companies where it's like...
I don't know if that conversation's happening, but shouldn't it be happening if you just thought of it off the top of your head?
But let's be honest. Do you hear any of this on conference calls, aside from in the semiconductor space?
I don't listen to a lot of them, but it sounds like you don't, and it's not coming up.
There's nothing there.
No.
No one's worried about this because it hasn't happened in their lifetimes. There's no institutional memory of World War II. Right. I mean, you talk about people who came of age and lived after World War II. Silent generation, it's on its last legs.
Well, we didn't even give the market a chance to work here, though. We've just become COVID and the supply disruptions coupled with China's hyper-aggressive international posture, not just toward Taiwan, but elsewhere, has brought this issue to the fore. Would have been nice to give the private sector some time to adapt and make the friendshoring investments, or whatever you want to call the relocation of vital facilities. Make those without huge taxpayer infusions. I'm not convinced we need them. I'm not sure what the economic argument is.
There is no economic argument. I'll be the first to tell. This is something that I am in favor of, but because the economics are bad. The economics of making chips in the U.S. Don't make sense. There's a reason why you don't make most of your chips in the U.S. right now. But there's also a very good strategic reason not to make most of your chips in Taiwan. And if you have to pay more in order to do so domestically, the reason why I think you get to, hey, why'd we do this? It's the runway for building this stuff. It's a 5 to 10 year process to get these facilities up and running. By the time, if you wait until there is a conflict, it's already too late. You can't get them. So that's kind of where I tend to land, is not that this is a good idea because I want the U.S. to be an economic powerhouse making chip. I don't care about that.
Why not food? Why not oil? Why not cars?
So
you could make that argument with respect to any good produced by the private sector, right?
Well, I think that ultimately semiconductors at this point are what power all of those other things. They are the oxygen that powers all of those other industries. Without them, you don't have an auto industry domestically. You don't have a food industry domestically. You don't have an oil industry domestically. You don't have anything. They are as critical of an input as anything else at this point. And so on the other ones, when you look at how the U.S. is positioned, you already have massive supply and production of oil. I mean, the U.S. is each year either the largest or second largest oil producer in the world today. And on the food side of things, when you talk about arable land relative to the population, the U.S. is in a fantastic spot as well. The Chinese government has to worry much more about food security in a war than the U.S. does. Because relative to their population, they've got a teensy tiny little bit of arable land.
Yeah, I don't know. Where does that logic stop? I mean, that sounds like what they used to call autarky, which means total independence, which the Soviets were. It protected them from the Great Depression, for example. And it resulted in the long run, I mean, in the short run, it can result in a huge burst in economic growth. But in the long run, stagnation and inability.
I'm not saying the U.S. should use it anywhere other than where they are in semiconductors. I don't think you need to be fully independent everywhere.
But why not by the same logic, though, I guess is what I'm saying.
Why don't we talk about that now or two?
Sounds good.
Let's take a break. We'll do that when we return. Hi, this is Chuck and Mike from the Armstrong Advisory Group, and we have a guide available this month titled How to Retire in 2023. Mike, what happens if you go through this process and you find out, gee, maybe the numbers don't add up to the kind of retirement that I wanted this year?
Yeah, so, I mean, first and foremost, make sure you do the numbers, right? Don't just base it on a rule of thumb. Make sure you've run the budget and understand where your spending is going to be. But if you do those numbers and you say, it looks to me like I'm on the edge, there are a few different ways to change things, right? I mean, one, if you're still not quite there, you could save more for retirement by working longer. You could take a look at your spending, obviously, right? If you can decrease your spending, that goes a long way because we're talking about a retirement in this country oftentimes lasting 20, 30 years, and that spending compounds.
The other thing you can consider, something like a part-time job or a phased-in retirement where you reduce your hours gradually over a couple of years.
That's one that people, I feel like, don't pay close attention to, but one that's become incredibly popular these days is, retirement to me does not necessarily mean what it meant to my parents. And yeah, I can't really see myself fully stopping work. Maybe I am working 20 hours or working as a consultant in some industry.
Our guide this month is titled How to Retire in 2023, and there are two ways you can request it. The first is by calling 800-393-4001. The second is by calling ArmstrongAdvisory.com. Again, the guide is titled How to Retire in 2023, and you can call 800-393-4001 or visit ArmstrongAdvisory.com to request it.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
Tuning into the baseball game, monitoring the incoming storm, catching your favorite talk show. These are just a few of the reasons more than 80 million Americans depend on AM radio each month. And did you know AM radio is the backbone of the emergency alert system? It's reliable, free, and public safety depends on it. Text AM to 52886 and tell Congress we need AM radio in cars.
Message and data rates may apply. You may receive up to 4 messages a month, and you may text STOP to stop.
This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
This is the Money Matters Radio Network, WBNW 1120 AM and W275CM FM, Concord, Boston. The Money Matters Radio Network.
Environmental nonprofit Ocean River Institute is working with communities to tackle climate change with nature-based solutions that feature slowing water down and building more soil with grasses and plants. Research indicates that people acting in their own neighborhoods can build an inch of soil in a year and slow sea level rise down by as much as 25%. Please visit oceanriver.org for more information on opportunities to make a difference and go the distance for savvy stewardship of a greener and bluer planet Earth.
My name is Dottie. This is my VA story. My father served in World War II. He was my hero. As he got older, he needed more help. VA New England Healthcare was there for him and our family every step of the way. VA New England Healthcare offers unlimited healthcare options. The best part? It never cost our family a single penny. As a veteran, my father deserved the best, and so does a veteran in your life. My name is Dottie, and I choose VA.
For more information, call 1-844-VA-CARES or visit vacares.us.
Proper estate planning is critical and may be the difference between retiring comfortably or living under incredible financial pressure. Cushing & Dolan can help. Call them today at 866-848-5699 and ask for their new guide called Detour Ahead, Estate Planning Blunders to Avoid. Don't put your assets at risk. That's 866-848-5699 or request it online from their website, legalexchangeshow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. The United States Virgin Islands, St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John were recently voted a top Caribbean destination by Travel and Leisure magazine and several other top media organizations, as well as the best Caribbean islands to visit in 2023 by the Caribbean Journal. Spring has arrived in New England, but it's still a perfect time to head to America's Caribbean paradise. When you arrive, you'll enjoy some of the most pristine beaches in the world, incredible scuba diving and snorkeling, and world-class culinary offerings. Book your trip today and fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands, where the sun is strong, the clouds are few, and the weather is perfect every day. Travel from New England could not be easier. With no passport required, no money to exchange, and no travel restrictions to enter. Go to visitusvi.com and learn more about America's Caribbean paradise and book a trip today. That's visitusvi.com.
I studied Spanish in college and never got fluent. But then I tried Babbel.
Want the most effective way to learn another language? In just 15 minutes a day, Babbel's bite-sized lessons will have you learning another language in as little as 3 weeks.
Babbel is all conversation-based, so it gets you speaking quickly about things you actually talk about in the real world.
You'll really see a difference in how you can speak and how conversational you can be in just a few weeks.
Babbel isn't just lessons. You can listen to podcasts, play games, watch videos. You can even take live online classes with a language teacher. There are so many ways to learn with Babbel.
The lessons online and in the app make it easy to learn from pretty much anywhere.
University studies have shown that using Babbel for 15 hours is equivalent to a semester of college Spanish. If you want to learn a new language, there's no better way than Babbel. Go to Babbel.com to try for free. That's Babbel.com. Babbel.com.
This is Tucker Silva of the Financial Exchange, and I'm joined today by estate planning attorney Todd Lutzke with Cushing & Dolan with your Financial Exchange quick tip of the day. And today, we're talking about the top estate planning mistakes to avoid. Now, Todd, in your opinion, what is the absolute biggest mistake a person can make when it comes to estate planning?
Well, they think about giving away their house. They always feel good, and they say, you know what, I'm going to give away my house, or I'm going to make a gift of a vacation home, or I'm going to, just get it out of my name. That way the kids have it, they enjoy it, and I don't own it anymore. And it seems so easy and so inexpensive. But folks, when I say it's one of the biggest mistakes, generally when you give away highly appreciated assets, which is generally what you have with an old house that you bought or an old vacation home that you've had for many years, you give your children the capital gains tax headache associated with it. You give them a carryover basis, so you're giving them a tax bill. In addition to giving them the tax bill because of the built-in gain, you're exposing it to all their creditors, their future divorces. This might not be the safest way to leave the asset to the family. So So please don't make that mistake. Instead, think about your plan overall and put together an entire estate plan using trusts. You'll be much happier, and the family will be much happier and enjoy less taxes.
Todd Lutzke and the estate planning experts at Cushing & Dolan have written a brand new guide called Detour Ahead: Estate Planning Potholes to Avoid. You can request this brand new guide by simply calling 866-848-5699, or you can simply request it at legalexchangeshow.com. Once again, the number 866-848-5699, or you can request it at their website, legalexchangeshow.com.
The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and/or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing and Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. The Financial Exchange is produced by Money Matters Radio and is hosted by employees of the Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor that provides investment advisory services. All opinions expressed are solely those of the hosts, do not reflect the opinions of Armstrong Advisory or anyone else, and do not guarantee profit. Investments can lose money. This program does not offer any specific financial or investment advice. Please consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong and Money Matters Radio do not compensate each other for referrals and are not affiliated.
This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Mike Armstrong. Your exclusive look at business and financial news affecting your day, your city, your world. Stay informed and up to date about economic and market trends. Plus, get breaking business news every day. The Financial Exchange is a proud partner of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. You too can support our great American heroes by visiting financialexchangeshow.com/DAV. And now, it's time for the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Mike Armstrong.
Actually, Chuck, Marc Fandetti, and Tucker with you, and we've got stocks continuing their rally from yesterday. The Dow up the smallest of the bunch, only 39 points in the green, about 0.1%. S&P's up 24 points, about 0.5%, and the Nasdaq up 130 points, or a whole percentage point at this point here. So all three major U.S. indices are in positive territory. On the bond side of things, bonds are selling off with the U.S. 10-year Treasury up to 3.64%. That is on the back of the only thing that I saw this morning. Mark, correct me if you saw anything else that might have impacted it. But you had Lori Logan, who's the Federal Reserve president of Dallas, I believe, the Dallas branch, said that she did not believe that the Fed had necessarily gone far enough to halt its tightening yet.
Oh, gee, you think?
Other than that, I didn't see anything.
Way to go, Laura.
On the oil side of things, West Texas Intermediate is down 57 cents a barrel to 72.32, and gold is down 27.20 an ounce to 19.57. So gold just continues to not really get much traction beyond 2,000. It gets there, it hangs out, and it hasn't really plugged past it anytime recently. So there's that. Yes, you had something more?
Well, the bond sell-off, Chuck, you mentioned that the yield on the 10-year Treasury bond was up nearly 0.1%. We use basis point jargon here, which is 1/100%. So if we say 10 basis points, we mean 0.1%. So up several basis points, nearly 0.1% today. I saw that too, and I was looking around for headlines, and then I realized it's global. It's not just U.S. government bond prices that are down and therefore yields that are up. So there could be something else moving markets. It could be what you talked about earlier, Chuck, the Bloomberg piece about the increase in Treasury bond supply that's going to happen when the debt ceiling is resolved. That's something that could put upward pressure on yields and equivalently downward pressure on prices all over the world because the U.S. Treasury is a benchmark fixed income instrument. Otherwise, it's hard to come up, as you said, with an explanation that would serve as a plausible catalyst for a rise in bond yields all over the world, government bond yields all over the world today.
Prior to the break, at the end of the last hour, we were talking about, we started by talking about Micron Technology, who is going to invest about $3.6 billion building chip factories in Japan. And we got into a discussion about, look, do we think that the U.S., Japan, and other countries should be subsidizing domestic chip production at this point in time in order to build more chips, the semiconductor kind, not the potato kind, domestically? Or is that a bad idea because it does not produce the economic outcomes that you want, and so on and so forth? My view, I would summarize as, yes, I think that we should be doing this, even if it's not something that is good economic sense, just because of the strategic importance of having domestic semiconductor production. Mark, how would you characterize your position?
Correct. We should not be throwing cash at already cash-rich semiconductor companies that had planned massive expansion of chip production prior to this pork barrel largesse. I know I'm just throwing adjectives for excessive government spending, but to me, that's what it is. These projects.
What is a pork barrel, anyways?
What's the origin
you
of the
guys
term?
ever seen a pork barrel?
I don't know that I want to.
Sounds delicious, though.
It sounds like a good thing.
It sounds like it's
Tucker, what's
smoking
wrong
some
with
pork
you?
or something in a barrel. I don't know.
He's salivating.
I am starting to.
I want to throw up. He's salivating.
All right, here we go. The term pork barrel politics refers to spending which is intended to benefit constituents of a politician in return for their political support, blah, blah, blah. It was popularized. So originally, in the popular 1863 story, The Children of the Public, Edward Everett Hale used the term pork barrel as a homely metaphor for any form of public spending to the citizenry. However, after the American Civil War, the term came to be used in a derogatory sense, with the modern use dating to 1873. Pork barrel originally came from storing meat. By the 1870s, references to pork were common in Congress, and the term was further popularized by a 1919 article by Chester Collins Maxey in the National Municipal Review, which reported on certain legislative acts known to members of Congress as pork barrel bills. But was pork ever stored by the barrel? I mean, I guess maybe that's how it was salted back in the day.
Yeah, maybe it was cured that way. Or maybe that's where smoking came from.
And
I don't
so
know.
is the
Either
idea-
way, I want barbecue now.
I'm guessing the idea is, hey, you're giving this barrel full of food to your constituents. This
pulled pork.
There you go. Okay, we've unpacked that now. Sorry,
So,
Mark, I
guess
digressed.
My point. No, you've successfully swamped me with irrelevancies. I forgot the point. I think my point was
Another successful debate.
Zodda wins again.
It's the Chewbacca defense.
That's right. So my point is, politicians get their hands on subsidies, and only bad things, for the most part, can happen. Only by luck will
Agreed.
good things happen.
Agreed.
Your point is taken. It is a vital component. I mean, nobody's going to argue with that. It's foundational. We need access to supply. These companies that are the main beneficiaries of this 60, 70 or so billion dollars in subsidies, Taiwan Semiconductor, Intel, Samsung, they had already planned massive expansions prior to this. So they're going to use this in part, as I understand it, at least as the Cato Institute, which is libertarian leaning as I am. So that's what I'm quoting. Consider the source, but this looks factual enough. It's the data is taken right from the House study that supported this legislation. So these investments were already going to be made. These companies are rich with cash, hundreds of billions on their balance sheets combined, or tens of billions, paying out dividends. There's absolutely no evidence here that they were necessary, as far as I can tell, in my non-expert, somewhat admittedly cynical view, that these subsidies were necessary to make these investments. And I don't think you want governments picking winners. Now, that's not exactly what they're doing here. That's not entirely fair. Any company could apply for and be granted these subsidies, but it does effectively amount to me to picking winners, and that generally doesn't work out well.
I agree 100% that it doesn't work out well. I would make the case that I look at the CHIPS Act as an insurance policy. It's, these companies may have made those investments otherwise, but this is ensuring that they are. And while the cost of $50 billion sounds like a lot, it's like 1 month of the DoD spend, and this is going to be spread out over 4 or 5 years. $50 billion over 4 years of the U.S. Government operating, it's a rounding error. I mean, the DoD probably loses that in a 4-year period, and they don't know where they spent it.
Yeah, it is. Someone said a long time ago, though, a billion here, a billion. You've heard the expression.
I
Billion
have.
Here, a billion there. You're talking about real money.
But this is something that I also
later.
If this were simply, hey, we're going to be trying to bring back all kinds of manufacturing and textiles and this and that, I'd say no, because economically it clearly doesn't make sense, and it's not a mission-critical product to the functioning of modern society. If you gotta go shirtless for a day, you can go shirtless for a day. Right? Oh, gee, we're out of socks. What are we gonna do? Put the sandals on. We'll figure it out. But when we talk about just about every business right now, even the ones that, you don't think of as using a whole lot in the way of semiconductors. I mean, farming now, it's run by these GPS-driven combines that basically do everything on a farm. That's the business now. So I think that as poor of a decision as this may be economically, and I own that, and I don't wear it proudly, but I don't run from it. The CHIPS Act is a bad economic decision, but I think it's a good one from a national security perspective. And I think that concern in my mind trumps the fact that it's probably bad economic policy.
Well, if we agree that it's probably bad economic policy, then I don't know what's.
It's just should we have not have done it? Yeah.
Yeah. I'm again. The investments are already happening.
Make sure they happen is my point, because you can't have all the other stuff that you may need in the time of potential conflict. This is the underpinning now, and the U.S. already has. Again, it's if you look at the good fortune that the U.S. has. I mean, it's pretty much the one country in the world that has vast supplies of arable farmland and energy domestically. Most countries have one or the other. Saudi Arabia, whole lot of oil, not much farmland. China really doesn't have much of either, relative to its population.
Oh,
it's
sure.
Big problem for them.
We're blessed. Canada's blessed. Russia's blessed.
India, good amount of farmland, not much in the way of oil. You look at like these big countries and big populations, there are almost none that have what the U.S. has in terms of the wealth of natural resources. What we don't have right now is the domestic semiconductor manufacturing capacity that I'd personally like to see. Did we go about trying to build it in maybe a dumb and expensive way? Probably. As Winston Churchill once said, look, Americans, you can always count on them to do what's right after they've exhausted all other options first.
But what other options have we exhausted in this case? Did we explore something other than infusions of cash
for the last 3 decades,
cash-rich companies?
For the last 3 decades, we pretty much had no industrial policy as it related to semiconductor manufacturing. We pretty much said, let the market do what it wants, and the market took it overseas.
As it did with many things.
And this is an area
where
I'd
bother me. Other than citing a factory in Japan, which now appears to be ill-advised, why would this bother anybody?
That it's specifically that the vast majority of semiconductors are produced in Taiwan. And the looming threat of China against Taiwan. That's what bothers me. If most semiconductors were produced in Spain or Canada or Mexico or Australia, I wouldn't care.
But the market was already correcting that when it became obvious that Taiwan was more vulnerable than we had hoped, as evidenced by the commitments prior to the CHIPS Act.
This has sped up that move, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't doubt that it has.
And again, that's what I think matters, because it takes so long to build these things. We got to run. Let's take a quick break. We're going to be joined after the break by Nadia Evangelou from the National Association of Realtors, talking about today's existing home sales release.
Text us at 617-362-1385 with your comments and questions about today's show, and let us know what you think about the stories we are covering. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network. The United States Virgin Islands, St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John were recently voted a top Caribbean destination by Travel and Leisure magazine and several other top media organizations, as well as the best Caribbean islands to visit in 2023 by the Caribbean Journal. Spring has arrived in New England, but it's still a perfect time to head to America's Caribbean paradise. When you arrive, you'll enjoy some of the most pristine beaches in the world, incredible scuba diving and snorkeling, and world-class culinary offerings. Book your trip today and fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands, where the sun is strong, the clouds are few, and the weather is perfect every day. Travel from New England could not be easier. With no passport required, no money to exchange, and no travel restrictions to enter. Go to visitusvi.com and learn more about America's Caribbean paradise and book a trip today. That's visitusvi.com.
AM radio provides always-on news, sports, talk, traffic, and weather reports. And it's also a vital service that provides important emergency information when your community needs it most. Tell Congress you need AM radio to stay in your car. Because when cell phones and the internet are down, this free emergency service is critical. Text AM to 52886 and tell Congress we need AM radio in cars.
Message and data rates may apply. You may receive up to 4 messages a month, and you may text STOP to stop.
This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
For 40 years, Cancer Support Community has been a relentless ally for anyone impacted by cancer, with free services provided online and in person, with their newest location in Massachusetts. Connect with Cancer Support Community Massachusetts for free emotional support, educational resources, patient navigation, financial counseling, and more. 617-797-3391. CancerSupportMass.org. CancerSupportMass.org.
This is Tucker Silva of the Financial Exchange Show, and I'm joined today by estate planning attorney Todd Lutzke with your Financial Exchange Quick Tip of the Day. And today we're talking about the top estate planning mistakes to avoid. Todd, what is the downside of adding your beneficiaries to your accounts or adding their names to your real estate deeds as a joint owner? Won't this avoid probate?
Yeah, it sure would. And again, sometimes simple is not always better. And that's what I want to focus on here, folks, is it seems easy to throw an account name, like say I've got a child living nearby, I add their name to my account because it's convenient, but I've got 3 other kids or 2 other kids. Well, when I die, that asset will go directly to that joint owner. Yes, it will avoid probate, but at the end of the day, I could be disinheriting my other children by accident. I certainly don't want to do that. I also expose that asset, at least 50% of that asset, to my child's creditors while I'm living. I don't think I want to do that. And especially, folks, when it comes to real estate, don't add a child's name to your real estate deed, because that not only exposes it to the child's creditors and future divorces, but at the end of the day, you've also given away half the house, trapping half the capital gain in that property. Again, in essence, giving your child a tax bill when you give away highly appreciated property. So do an entire estate plan. Don't just make quick knee-jerk reactions.
Todd Lutzke and the estate planning experts at Cushing & Dolan have written a brand new guide called Detour Ahead, Estate Planning Potholes to Avoid. You can request this brand new guide by calling 866-848-5699, or you can request it from LegalExchangeShow.com. Once again, the phone number, 866-848-5699, or you can simply request it online at their website, LegalExchangeShow.com.
The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing and Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. The latest news on inflation and how the markets are reacting every morning, right here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
The Financial Exchange is proudly partnered with VA New England. If you or a loved one serve this country, get the health benefits you earned and deserve. Call 844-VA-CARES. That's 844-VA-CARES.
Joining us on the line now is Nadia Evangelou from the National Association of Realtors, here to talk about existing home sales data for the month of April. Nadia, what did we see in terms of how the housing market looked in April?
Hi, good morning. So what we see is that existing home sales fell further in April compared to the previous month by 3%, almost 3%, to 4.3 million homes. But while home sales activity continues to recover from the higher mortgage rates, we should expect these fluctuations to persist in the following months, because home sales are affected by mortgage rates, since a lower or higher mortgage rate has a direct impact on the monthly mortgage payment. So depending on the movement of mortgage rates in the following months, home sales will usually follow the same trend.
How is inventory moving these days? We still at low levels of inventory, or has that rebounded at all in the last month or two?
It's great to see that now inventory is above the 1 million units. And actually compared to the previous month, we have about 7% more inventory. But have in mind that this is like mostly from the homes that are still longer, compared to a year ago, longer on the market. New listings are getting like better, but still like lower than a year ago. So it's good to see an increase inventory with housing construction to pick up to have a steady progress. We should expect the inventory to get better in the following months.
In terms of prices, how are they holding up given, as you mentioned, mortgage rates that still are very high relative to where they were a year ago?
Indeed. So as for home prices continue to decline, like in April. Prices were about 2% lower than a year ago. And in fact, I expect home prices to drop further in the next months, I think, until the summer months. After the third quarter, we may see the rebound. Because remember, last June, we had a record high home price at almost $430,000. So we don't expect the median home price to surpass this level this year. But due to low supply that we expect to have, price appreciation will rebound soon, likely in the third and then fourth quarter of the year. So we may have a better home prices then.
What about first-time home buyers? Are they still struggling to get into this market, or are there any signs of improvement there?
It's getting better with home prices that they're slightly lower, but it's still very challenging for them because mortgage rates continue to be around above the 6%, about almost 6.4%. So it's still very difficult for them to be back to the market and sometimes compete with existing homeowners that they have the advantage of the home wealth that they have accumulated during, especially the last couple of years.
Very good. Nadia, appreciate you joining us today. Thank you so much for the time.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
That is Nadia Evangelou from the National Association of Realtors.
All right, time for trivia here on the Financial Exchange, and it's brought to you by Encore Boston Harbor. Visit EncoreBostonHarbor.com and see for yourself why Encore is a Forbes 5-star award winner for both hotel and spa. Well, on this day in 2001, Shrek was released in theaters nationwide. Shrek was famously voiced by SNL alum Mike Myers. Fellow SNL alum Eddie Murphy voiced the sidekick Donkey, and Cameron Diaz was the voice of Princess Fiona. Interestingly, though, Mike Myers was not the original voice of Shrek. In fact, the movie was nearly entirely filmed and voiced by another SNL veteran. Our trivia question today is simply, which comedic actor was originally hired to be the voice of Shrek? Once again, which comedic actor was originally hired to be the voice of Shrek? Be the third person today to text us at 617-362-1385 with the correct answer, and you'll win a Financial Exchange Show t-shirt and be registered to win a $100 gift card to Encore Boston Harbor. Be sure to include the keyword Encore in your text, and we'll give away that gift card on tomorrow's show. 617-362-1385, and the third correct response will be our winner today. See complete contest rules at financialexchangeshow.com.
I'm guessing it wasn't Daniel Day-Lewis.
He was not on SNL.
Never?
As a cast member.
Do you think he ever hosted?
I think he did, actually. Yeah, let me look that up real quick.
I could see him hosting once. You know, he probably sat there for about a year just kind of getting into character.
I drank your milkshake.
Host SNL. Let me see here. No. Yeah, I don't see him being the funny guy. Now, plenty of people have probably, improvised on SNL, like, something along the lines of "There Will Be Blood," but
I feel like he would have actually. Daniel Day-Lewis kind of reminds me of Patrice Bergeron.
How?
In that
good hockey player?
In that Bergeron, I think if he wanted to, could have scored like 40 goals a year for his career if he had just been like, hey, I'm just going to do the offensive stuff, but that wasn't who he is.
Right.
Daniel Day-Lewis, I think, could have done anything in acting, but he was like, no, I'm just going to do these few roles really well. Quick break here. When we come back, we've got the trivia answer after this.
The Financial Exchange is live on Facebook, so make sure to like our page and watch the guys break down the latest on the markets every day beginning at 10 on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
My name is Dottie. This is my VA story. My father served in World War II. He was my hero. As he got older, he needed more help. VA New England Healthcare was there for him and our family every step of the way. VA New England Healthcare offers unlimited healthcare options. The best part? It never cost our family a single penny. As a veteran, my father deserved the best, and so does a veteran in your life. My name is Dottie, and I choose VA.
For more information, call 1-844-VA-CARES or visit vacares.us.
AM radio provides always-on news, sports, talk, traffic, and weather reports. And it's also a vital service that provides important emergency information when your community needs it most. Tell Congress you need AM radio to stay in your car. Because when cell phones and the internet are down, this free emergency service is critical. Text AM to 52886 and tell Congress we need AM radio in cars.
Message and data rates may apply. You may receive up to 4 messages a month, and you may text STOP to stop.
This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
Proper estate planning is critical to you being able to enjoy your retirement years, and may be the difference between retiring comfortably and living under incredible financial pressure. Creating an estate plan can be a difficult process if you aren't working with an expert who will make sure that your plan is secure. Cushing & Dolan can help. Call them today at 866-848-5699. Estate planning is their business, and they have a new guide out this month called Detour Ahead, Estate Planning Blunders to Avoid. Don't put your assets at risk and open yourself up to severe tax consequences. Even if you already have a plan, this guide may help you correct an issue that could come back to bite you in the years to come. Call right now, 866-848-5699, and get your free guide today. That's 866-848-5699, or request it online from their website, legalexchangeshow.com. The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing and Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. The United States Virgin Islands, St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John were recently voted a top Caribbean destination by Travel and Leisure magazine and several other top media organizations, as well as the best Caribbean islands to visit in 2023 by the Caribbean Journal. Spring has arrived in New England, but it's still a perfect time to head to America's Caribbean paradise. When you arrive, you'll enjoy some of the most pristine beaches in the world, incredible scuba diving and snorkeling, and world-class culinary offerings. Book your trip today and fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands, where the sun is strong, the clouds are few, and the weather is perfect every day. Travel from New England could not be easier, with no passport required, no money to exchange, and no travel restrictions to enter. Go to visitusvi.com and learn more about America's Caribbean paradise and book a trip today. That's visitusvi.com.
This is Tucker Silva of the Financial Exchange Show, and I'm joined today by estate planning attorney Todd Lutzke with your Financial Exchange quick tip of the day. And today we're talking about the top estate planning mistakes to avoid. Todd, what is the downside of adding your beneficiaries to your accounts or adding their names to your real estate deeds as a joint owner? Won't this avoid probate?
Yeah, it sure would. And again, sometimes simple is not always better. And that's what I want to focus on here, folks, is it seems easy to throw an account name, like say I've got a child living nearby, I add their name to my account because it's convenient, but I've got 3 other kids or 2 other kids. Well, when I die, that asset will go directly to that joint owner. Yes, it will avoid probate, but at the end of the day, I could be disinheriting my other children by accident. I certainly don't want to do that. I also expose that asset, at least 50% of that asset, to my child's creditors while I'm living. I don't think I want to do that. And especially, folks, when it comes to real estate, don't add a child's name to your real estate deed, because that not only exposes it to the child's creditors and future divorces, but at the end of the day, you've also given away half the house, trapping half the capital gain in that property. Again, in essence, giving your child a tax bill when you give away highly appreciated property. So do an entire estate plan. Don't just make quick knee-jerk reactions.
Todd Lutzke and the estate planning experts at Cushing & Dolan have written a brand new guide called Detour Ahead, Estate Planning Potholes to Avoid. You can request this brand new guide by calling 866-848-5699, or You can request it from LegalExchangeShow.com. Once again, the phone number, 866-848-5699, or you can simply request it online at their website, LegalExchangeShow.com.
The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and/or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing and Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. The Financial Exchange is now available on your Alexa smart speaker. Ask to play the Financial Exchange and catch up on anything you might have missed. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
All right, let's pay off our trivia question today, which was, which comedic actor was originally hired to be the voice of Shrek? Well, that would be Chris Farley. He was initially hired to voice Shrek, and he had recorded nearly all of the dialogue for the character, but died before completing the project, I believe at the age of 33. Story reel featuring a sample of Farley's recorded dialogue was leaked to the public in August of 2015. So go check that out on YouTube. It's up there. It's like a 3-minute video. Pretty cool. Winner today was Josh from Pittsfield, Mass. He's taking home that Financial Exchange Show t-shirt and is also registered to win a $100 gift card to Encore Boston Harbor, which we'll give away tomorrow. Trivia is brought to you by Encore Boston Harbor. Visit EncoreBostonHarbor.com and see for yourself why Encore is a Forbes 5-star award winner for both hotel and spa.
U.S. commercial real estate prices falling for the first time since 2011. That's according to data from Moody's Analytics. The piece that I keep coming back to with commercial real estate, though, is I'm not sure that it, in and of itself, is enough of a downward catalyst to cause a recession. And here's why, Mark. Back in 2006, just before things started to get really bad for the United States residential real estate market, the not vast majority, a sizable chunk of mortgages were adjustable rate mortgages, anywhere from 30 to 40% depending on the source that you look at, which meant that as interest rates started ticking up and they went through their initial 3 or 5 or 7 year window, you had all these mortgages adjusting their interest rates up at once. Every year it was just a step up, then a step up, and then the thing broke pretty much. With commercial real estate, the reason why I think it could be a decade of pain, but not necessarily a recession trigger, because, as an example, we have a lease, which I don't know how long it is, but let's say it's a 5-year lease. The company next to us has a lease. They might have a 5-year lease, but they started it a year after us, and so not everything is rolling over at the same time. Most commercial leases are anywhere from 5 to 10 years generally. Call it 7 to 10 in a lot of cases. So it's not something where you're inherently going to have all commercial tenants saying, gee, we got to get out of this place right now. But it could be a longer-term issue where it's just this consistent drag on the U.S. economy over the next 5 to 7 years, but not enough all at once to throw the U.S. economy into recession. Your thoughts?
It's not just that, though. Although price declines would be uncomfortable, office REITs, that is publicly traded real estate.
It's the defaults on debt that really are the potential issue.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to get at. So the price declines would be a little bit painful for us individual investors, because we typically have exposure to REITs through an S&P 500 or a Russell 3000 index fund, say through our 401k plan. But those are part of big diversified portfolios, so presumably other things will cushion that, ideally. The big concern, as you point out, is borrowers who own these properties not being able to roll their loans over and then mailing the keys back to the lender. There's something like $300 billion office loans on the books of small banks. How much can they, something like 40% is due to roll over in the next 15%, excuse me, I try to be diligent about this. 15% will mature this year of commercial. That's a little broader than office. and 50% of that estimate the folks at The Economist magazine could have refinancing trouble, and that's where the worries come in.
I think the piece when it relates to the small banks don't own. They're not the ones who are financing Facebook with 1 million square feet in Cambridge. Small banks. It's when I think of and when you look at the types of properties they typically are lending against, it is, hey, I'm a dentist, and I I borrowed for this property for my dental office, or I'm a small practice of doctors in any particular field, or things along those. They don't have the giant office buildings. If you look at who owns the giant office buildings and how the debt's set up there with your big office REITs, your Vornados of the world, and those types of companies, those are the places where I'd look to say, gee, this is trouble. Not so much, hey, I'm a small bank and I did some loans to a dentist and now I need to, re-up those. I'm not as concerned about those, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not saying you're dismissing it. I wouldn't. There are, again, a few $100 billion in office loans, office real estate loans sitting on the books of smaller banks. There have to be knock-on effects. And to what extent do those further impair the ability of small banks to extend credit elsewhere? I just don't know. So I don't think it necessarily has to be a recession trigger for investors to be concerned about. Look, just stay. I keep trying to bring this back to the folks listening to the show and to people like me who own these things through diversified 401k portfolios and the like. And as long as you are broadly diversified, you should be okay. But it's hard to say what the extent of the knock-on effects will be.
The United States Virgin Islands, St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John were recently voted a top Caribbean destination by Travel and Leisure magazine and several other top media organizations, as well as the best Caribbean islands to visit in 2023 by the Caribbean Journal. Spring has arrived in New England, but it's still a perfect time to head to America's Caribbean paradise. When you arrive, you'll enjoy some of the most pristine beaches in the world, incredible scuba diving and snorkeling, and world-class culinary offerings. Book your trip today and fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands, where the sun is strong, the clouds are few, and the weather is perfect every day. Travel from New England could not be easier, with no passport required, no money to exchange, and no travel restrictions to enter. Go to visitusvi.com and learn more about America's Caribbean paradise and book a trip today. That's visitusvi.com.
AT&T has not been very well operated over the last... How long would you say now? I mean, it really depends on...
When was the breakup, 83? 40 years?
In that ballpark, yeah. I want to say maybe it was 84.
83, 84, okay. Yeah.
There's a case to be made that...
84.
84?
Correct.
Well, here's the case that you can make. AT&T's stock price, and granted, this is a company with a significant dividend, so your total return has been much higher, but AT&T's stock price has not moved since 1995. Or rather, it has moved, but it's returned to the same place. So you have a nearly 30-year period where the only gains have been because of dividends, not because of any type of price appreciation. Which is fine. Like, there's more than one way to
If you're
to
an
go
individual
about it.
stockholder, that's probably why you were holding it, right?
Yeah, but
I'm not saying that's great. I'm just
you
saying
still expect more than a zero on the price return side of the equation, probably.
You and I would certainly.
You know, again, I don't know what AT&T's debt was yielding back in 1995, but there's a pretty good bet that if you bought like a 20-year AT&T bond, it was probably in the 7 to 8% range, and you probably did better owning the bond than the stock over that time.
Good point.
So that's the only place I'll go there. In either case, the stock has been an absolute train wreck over the last 7 years. July of 2016, it was trading at $33 a share. Today it's at $16, so it's lost 50% of its value in the last 7 years. And it's largely because of a slew of failed marriages with companies that just had nothing to do with their core business and that they spent a bunch of borrowed money on with little to save for it, whether you're looking at DirecTV, Time Warner. I mean, you go down the list, and it just has been bad. So here's what they're doing right now. They've decided that they want to expand their reach of their high-speed internet faster than any other telecom out there.
At least it's their core business.
It is their core business. They're spending billions of dollars to do this in order to try to, be faster than their rivals. Here's the thing about internet speed. I currently subscribe to the slowest internet that I can at home. It's a 50 megabit, whatever you want to call it, connection. They have up to all these gigabit connections, which is 20 times the speed of what I have. There have been multiple times where I've had 2 TVs on, and maybe there's, another connection for a work computer and this and that, and everything's fine. No household actually needs a gigabit internet connection. Now, AT&T will sell it as saying, this is how you get you don't get any buffering running a couple of screens of streaming stuff with the slowest internet available from AT&T, Comcast, Verizon. Pick your high-speed provider.
Really? Even during peak hours?
Never had a problem. The problems that you have are, the service goes down, but that's not related to, how many devices I'm using. I have never had a problem running a 50 megabit connection at home. Tucker, am I wrong? Am I off base on this?
No, the last time that I've had like an internet slowdown, maybe it was like in my apartment like 6 years ago, something like that. It wasn't even that bad.
There's
it's been a while.
You call and complain, and they give you a courtesy credit. This is a little tip for
or they up your
cheapskates.
Speed.
Well, they'll try that, but
they up your speed for free sometimes.
Those Jedi mind tricks shouldn't work on experienced finaglers. You can actually just call next time, complain. It interrupted some vital activity. They'll give you credit.
Yeah,
for what it's worth.
We called and complained once, and we have the highest possible speed possible.
Okay, so
around,
they upsold
I don't
you.
know.
That's not.
No, it was free. It was for free.
You got a free upgrade. That's what I've done that too.
They sent us all new equipment.
When I used to live in Somerville, I complained once, and they gave me a free upgrade, doubling my speed.
I think we threatened to cut the cord
for an extended period.
For the rest of my contract.
For life. I don't know.
I was only there
no
4
idea how
years.
Deflating this is. I was so proud to get him $5 once. And they're mailing you guys new equipment.
Oh, top of the line, Mark.
What did you say?
Top of the line. We said, hey.
Did you have the baby crying
we said,
in the background or something?
We're not taking too kindly to this slower internet here, and we're done. And they're like, no.
I'm impressed, but both of you have done it, so I'm obviously.
I really enjoy. It's kind of one of my sick, twisted things that I like is negotiating with cable companies and things like that.
That is pretty twisted.
It is, but here's the way I look at it: you spend maybe half an hour of your year each year. And the overall savings that you can get is in the hundreds of dollars per year. That's a good hourly rate for half an hour of work.
Both of you.
What someone really should do is
That's an idea.
You know what an idea would be, Tucker?
Yes. We're on the same length right now.
Okay.
Oh, here it comes.
Call and complain.
No.
Call and complain startup.
Yeah, but
where we do the complaining for you.
No, Tucker.
TM.
Tucker, even better, we can scale it.
Okay. How?
Use AI and an AI-generated voice, so we don't even need humans to make the calls.
Oh, this is genius.
You have an AI-based startup that
complains
to telecom operators in exchange for cheaper service, and we take a cut of the service, a cut of the savings.
Somebody's got to take this idea from us.
I know, it's fine. I'm not going to do this, but there's something there.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't know. The problem is, how do you take the cut of it?
I don't know. Just working on the contract. So you get X percent.
But how do you prove what they got?
Success rate.
What if they get faster internet? How do you take a percentage of that? Is it the savings that they would have gotten by otherwise having to pay full boat?
No. It's just better quality of life now. That's a percent. Whatever that percent is. Call it 90%.
Okay. There could be something there, but yeah, it's one of my favorite things to do once a year. Let's take a quick break here. When we come back, Stack Roulette.
Miss any of the show? You can catch up at your convenience by visiting financialexchangeshow.com and clicking the on-demand icon, where you'll find all of our interviews and full shows. This is your home for the latest business and financial news in New England and around the country. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
If you're thinking of retirement in 2023, you'll need to create a plan to make it happen. Hi, this is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group. A big piece of that plan is taking a closer look at your current income sources and expenses. You'll need to know if you have enough room in your budget to live comfortably and remain as financially secure as possible. What's really key is maintaining a reasonable withdrawal rate to help you avoid outliving that money. These are among the topics we discuss in our new free guide, How to Retire in 2023. Call right now and get your copy today at 800-393-4001. Don't wait too long to get your ducks in a row if this is the year for you to retire. Call 800-393-4001 and get your guide right now, or you can request it from our website, armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
Environmental nonprofit Ocean River Institute is working with communities to tackle climate change with nature-based solutions that feature slowing water down and building more soil with grasses and plants. Research indicates that people acting in their own neighborhoods can build an inch of soil in a year and slow sea level rise down by as much as 25%. Please visit oceanriver.org for more information on opportunities to make a difference and go the distance for savvy stewardship of a greener and bluer planet Earth.
The United States Virgin Islands, St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John were recently voted a top Caribbean destination by Travel and Leisure magazine and several other top media organizations, as well as the best Caribbean islands to visit in 2023 by the Caribbean Journal. Spring has arrived in New England, but it's still a perfect time to head to America's Caribbean paradise. When you arrive, you'll enjoy some of the most pristine beaches in the world, incredible scuba diving and snorkeling, and world-class culinary offerings. Book your trip today and fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands, where the sun is strong, the clouds are few, and the weather is perfect every day. Travel from New England could not be easier, with no passport required, no money to exchange, and no travel restrictions to enter. Go to visitusvi.com and learn more about America's Caribbean paradise and book a trip today. That's visitusvi.com.
Our community has relied on AM radio to inform, entertain, and empower. From the gospel music you grew up with, to the Black voices and perspectives you depend on for your news. And when dangerous situations arise, AM radio plays a unique role in keeping our listeners safe. We can't afford to have our voice silenced. Text AM to 52886 and tell Congress we need AM radio in cars.
Message and data rates may apply. You may receive up to 4 messages a month, and you may text STOP to stop.
This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
My name is Dottie. This is my VA story. My father served in World War II. He was my hero. As he got older, he needed more help. VA New England Healthcare was there for him and our family every step of the way. VA New England Healthcare offers unlimited healthcare options. The best part? It never cost our family a single penny. As a veteran, my father deserved the best, and so does a veteran in your life. My name is Dottie, and I choose VA.
For more information, call 1-844-VA-CARES or visit vacares.us.
For 40 years, Cancer Support Community has been a relentless ally for anyone impacted by cancer, with free services provided online and in person, with their newest location in Massachusetts. Connect with Cancer Support Community Massachusetts for free emotional support, educational resources, patient navigation, financial counseling, and more. 617-797-3391. CancerSupportMass.org. CancerSupportMass.org.
Text us 617-362-1385 with your comments and questions about today's show. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
All of us at the Financial Exchange are excited about this year's DAV 5K. Save the date for Saturday, November 11th for this year's race at Fort Independence at Castle Island. Our partnership with the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts is a cause that's near and dear to all of us. So visit DAV5K.Boston and make your donation today. Your gifts can sponsor a veteran's family member at summer camp as well as veterans who are homeless or hospitalized. That's DAV5K.Boston. The DAV5K Boston is proudly presented by Veterans Development Corporation.
Tucker, is that a little Perpetual Groove?
Wow, I'm impressed you know that. Yeah, it is.
I went to a couple music festivals in college.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, I want to talk about Telly, which is a company that is going to be giving away 500,000 free 4K TVs this year. The catch is that there's a second screen mounted under the main one that shows ads all the time. While you're watching stuff, while you're not watching stuff, while it's just hanging out in your house. And they're thinking they can make enough money through the ads to justify giving away 500,000 TVs.
Now, this would cost more than $1,000.
I don't buy that. So that's what the CEO is saying, that it would cost more than $1,000.
It's a 4K, but
okay.
still.
I just found a Samsung one for $379 at Best Buy.
Right?
55 inches?
Yeah. Here's an Insignia one for $269. You know, here's a TCL for $279.
So the second screen is 9 inches.
High.
But
still as wide as the regular screen.
And constantly using electricity.
Oh, yeah.
That's another, yeah.
And your internet connection.
And
doing who knows what else when you're not looking at it.
So, yeah, I have privacy concerns out of this more than anything else. Do I want another screen that's on all the time? Which it also looks like there's a front-facing camera on this, which makes me nervous.
Yeah, any TV with a camera on is interesting, to say the least. I don't trust those whatsoever.
The quote from him is, TVs are a commodity. It's a race to the bottom on price. There's been no innovation in the industry. I mean, the former is true. It's always a race to the bottom on price in TVs because they're a commodity at this point. But I'm not sure that you win by making them free.
Yeah. They tried this with computers in the late 90s. Did you guys ever hear?
Did
it was called Free PC. I got one.
Did you get one?
98, 99?
I vaguely remember that.
It was.
They didn't make it, huh?
A compact, maybe.
Okay.
You may not remember the
Yeah.
manufacturer.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it was.
I remember
a
all
compact.
those guys. You had Compact, Gateway. I mean, I remember all the ones
We
from
had
back
a lot
then.
of choices.
Yeah.
It was a bounty, and there was a banner at the bottom, and you eventually learned to tune it out. And then after a year, of course, it became obsolete like everything in those days when you traded every 18 months because computers did get measurably quicker and made you measurably more productive. So it didn't last long. They went out of business not long thereafter. What caught my eye about this article was, number one, that parallel, which they may or may not be aware of. It didn't work.
No, they're not here anymore.
Right. Even I gave it up, and it was free, and it takes a lot to pry something free out of my hands. Secondly was the valuation, $100 million allegedly from private investors. That's the valuation they attach to this based on what private investors are paying for a slice of it or what they're investing in it, said differently. That seemed dubiously high. For a
What's to
concept.
stop you once you receive one of these because you're not buying it? What if you just put a bunch of duct tape over the second screen?
Yeah, they would never know.
Yeah, aside from the house fire, you'd really pull one over on them.
What if you put a lot of electrical tape over the second screen?
Yeah, covered the thing with gasoline and.
Let's take
I'll
a
show
quick break.
them.
When we come back tomorrow, we'll finish up the week on the Financial Exchange.
My name is Dottie. This is my VA story. My father served in